Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a deeply meditative journey. We are going to logically unpeel the universal human experience of everyday stress, anxiety, and suffering, and we're doing it through the lens of a beautifully profound text by a writer named Galeno. It's like a giant puzzle of the human mind, so let's just dive right in. So, why do we suffer even before defeat? I want to just let that hang in the air for a second. Think about the last time you faced a major challenge. Maybe a massive hurdle at work, a sudden health scare, or a financial tight spot. The actual worst-case scenario hadn't even happened yet, right? But your mind was already agonizing over it. Galeno's text starts right here at the root cause of this anticipated pain, to figure out exactly why we prematurely torture ourselves. That brings us to Section 1, the illusion of problems. We're going to be redefining what we actually call adversity. Let's channel Galeno's Socratic method for a moment. I want you to pause and genuinely ask yourself, what are problems? It sounds like an incredibly basic question, I know. We usually think of problems as these objective, immovable realities, a flat tire, a lost contract, a broken relationship. But Galeno challenges us to look a lot closer at the true nature of these obstacles. Well, Galeno defines problems as misinterpretations of adverse situations where we fail to see the alternatives and solutions that always accompany them. Notice the massive claim he's making here. Alternatives and solutions always accompany the situation. He's basically saying that the problem isn't the objective reality of the situation itself. Rather, it's our own subjective failure to recognize the built-in solutions. We get total tunnel vision. We misinterpret the event, and honestly, that cognitive failure is the actual problem. Moving on to Section 2, the anatomy of fear, the true architect of our pain. Here we have the tragic sequence of human suffering mapped out step by step like falling dominoes. Step 1, we encounter an adverse situation. Step 2, we engage in misinterpretation, meaning we completely fail to see the available alternatives. That directly triggers Step 3, fear. And fear culminates in Step 4, anticipated suffering. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that we are enduring the pain of defeat long before any actual failure happens. The misinterpretation brings the fear, which Galeno identifies as the literal starting point of the pain. We suffer purely from the perspective of defeat. Which brings us to a really critical turning point in the text. What exactly is fear? If fear is the psychological bridge between misinterpreting a situation and actually suffering, we really need to understand the root of that terror. What is actually happening in our hearts and minds when we feel afraid? Here is Galeno's profound answer to that. Fear is a feeling of insecurity regarding what we think we have and do not want to lose. Now, I want to put special emphasis on that phrase, what we think we have. This is the ultimate setup for the grand illusion of ownership. We're terrified of losing things, sure, but Galeno is subtly planting this realization that maybe our grip on these things was always just a mental projection to begin with. Let's dig deeper into that in Section 3, the myth of permanence. This is essentially society's fundamental lie. Galeno points out a few specific things that we're basically taught to claim absolute ownership over: material wealth that brings power, and our own personal health. I mean, we are taught from day one, and we completely accept that we possess these things. We literally build our entire identities around our bank accounts, our status, and the reliable ticking of our bodies. We treat them as permanent fixtures of our reality, completely ignoring how incredibly fragile they actually are. We live so comfortably in what we were taught, permanence and possession. We believe things will last and that they fundamentally belong to us. But the harsh, unvarnished reality is impermanence and loss of access. Galeno argues that we only ever recognize this impermanence when we lose access to these worldly goods, like when the power suddenly fades or our health takes a hit. The gap between that comfortable illusion and the stark reality, that's the exact space where all of our human anxiety lives and breathes. Okay, so how do we fix this? Section 4, the path of transience, finding liberation in the truth. Here is Galeno's ultimate cure for our anxiety. Recognizing the transience that permeates our earthly life is the path to non-suffering. The solution isn't to somehow fight harder to keep our possessions or to obsessively maintain permanence. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. The solution is radical acceptance. Acknowledging the temporary, fleeting nature of life is the absolute key to true peace. When you finally accept transience, those misinterpretations we talked about, they vanish, and the fear simply dissolves. And that leads us to this devastatingly simple final thesis. We lose nothing because we have nothing. Just take a deliberate moment to absorb the weight of that. If we fundamentally own nothing, if health, wealth, and power are just temporary experiences that we're granted access to for a little while, what is left to truly fear? When the illusion of ownership is entirely stripped away, the fear of loss goes right out the door with it. Think about how embracing that single idea could completely revolutionize the way you face your very next life challenge. I really hope this explainer has given you a powerful new lens for viewing your own adversity. Keep questioning what you think you own and keep learning.